Hey, you guys, welcome to the kickoff of Craftsy Lucky Creations, a whole week of fun St. Patrick's Day themed recipes and crafts for you to enjoy. I'm really excited to kick off the week with my Irish coffee brownie bites. They're really easy to make. You don't need a mixer, you need a handful of ingredients, and you can make adjustments for the espresso that's in it and the whiskey that's in it. So they're really fun. I've made them all different ways with and without the booze. So I'm excited to start. I'll give you a quick background for those of you who don't know who I am. I'm a food writer, nutritionist, cookbook author. I have a bunch of classes on Craftsy. I just shot two about 3 weeks ago, so we'll have some fresh content there, and I'm doing more in April. So look for my classes on Craftsy. I was on Food Network for 5 years with a show called Quick Fix Meals. That's still on Amazon Prime Video and on Discovery Plus. You can watch those old episodes. I have columns in papers, and I continue to just write and blog and have a good time every day. And I love these live events because I get to reach out and get to communicate with you back and forth. You can ask me questions. I love when people say, hey, it's Sally from Nebraska. I'd love to know where you're from. I think that's super fun. And I think everybody else in the comments likes to know where everybody's tuning in from. So feel free to reach out, say where you're from, ask some questions. You can stop me as I'm going and say, wait a minute, can I do this? Can I do that? Or how did you do that? And this time, for those of you who watched last time, we have a good overhead set up so you won't miss anything as I make the recipe. And it's so easy. It's going to be ready in a flash. So feel free to slow me down and ask lots of questions. So we will start with the dry ingredients for these Irish coffee brownie bites. First, I think I'll tell you the inspiration for these brownie bites. When I was growing up, every Christmas, my father, who's Italian, but he served Irish coffee for dessert every Christmas after dinner. And it was such a thing for him. It was like a whole process. He would have all the coffees lined up, and then he would make sure he had the foam. It was like, now it's so easy to get like a foamer, but back then to get the perfect amount of cream, milk, and whiskey in there so that there was a layer of cream on top and the coffee on the bottom, and it was just really fun. And he would love to do it. He would pour it in with the spoon so it would stay separated. So in tribute to him, that's why I came up with these brownie bites. They have espresso and they have whiskey, and it's in a brownie base so that you get all the flavors of the creamy coffee drink in a brownie. And if you want to leave the whiskey out, you can absolutely do that, and I'll talk about that as we get there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a bowl, and I'm going to get some dry ingredients in the bowl. We have got 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and this recipe is super easy to double and to triple. I doubled the recipe last week because I wanted to bring some ingredients to a track meet. We've got 1 cup of flour. We've got 1 cup of granulated sugar. I'm hoping you can see that in there. And then we've got a 1/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon. I know it seems silly, but that 1 tablespoon really makes a difference. It makes it like extra chocolatey. So 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon, and use your favorite cocoa. It can be Dutch process, or it can be your favorite. I've been trying all kinds of different kinds of cocos, fair trade and different things, and I'm finding some really great things. Then we've got 2 teaspoons, and you can adjust 1 to 2 teaspoons of espresso. So this gives it the coffee flavor, kind of like mocha flavor. And I'll show you what I used. So it's the instant espresso powder. It's kind of like granules. I brought my teaspoons over so I could show you what they look like. I don't know if my overhead camera's not working. Maybe it's not. But yeah, so it's just the coffee granules. It's instant espresso, sold like in the coffee aisle. There we go. Now you can see it. Perfect. So here we're going to do all the dry ingredients in here first. I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. That goes in there. And then I'm going to add like 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we add salt to sweet ingredients, to sweet desserts, because it brings out the sweetness. It's a nice counter to the sweetness of all that sugar. We did a cup of sugar. So I'm going to just mix these dry ingredients. You're not going to believe how easy this is. I mean, these are going to be ready. They can be on the table in less than 30 minutes. And you can make them ahead, several days in advance. In fact, I have, when I finish this batch, I'm going to pop it in the freezer. And a month from now, when I go visit my son I'm gonna just throw them in my bag and be ready to go, because they last up to 3 months in the freezer, and who doesn't want to have that sweet treat ready to go? Okay, so some recipes you'll have wet ingredients in one bowl and dry ingredients in another, and then you mix them. No need to do that here. This all goes together in one bowl, so that's one bowl to clean. Here I've got 6 tablespoons of melted butter. I like to use unsalted butter because you can control the salt in your recipe. If you only have salted butter, leave that pinch of salt that we just added to the dry ingredients, leave that out. Okay, we got that. That was melted. I like also to melt the butter and let it cool slightly so it doesn't cook the egg that we're going to add. Let's add that egg. Let it crack. And we only need 1 egg. I know we've got some egg pricing things going on right now, but you just need 1 for the whole batch of brownies. And this is room temperature. And the reason you do room temperature eggs is because they incorporate better into batters, all batters, cake, cookie, and these brownies. Just going to give it a little head start. No questions for me yet? I see no comments, no questions. I'm here. All right, that's good. That was a beautiful looking egg. I love those dark orange yolks. Okay, 1 egg. Then we've got the whiskey. So you have an option here. You can do, your favorite whiskey. I just happen to have this for when company comes over. So you can do 1 to 2 tablespoons of whiskey, or you can, and I have that here, or you can use water, or you can use milk. So if you want to leave the liquor out, you don't want the Irish coffee part of it, but you just want the coffee part of it, then you just leave the 2 tablespoons of whiskey out. And you can do 1 to 2 also. The recipe calls for 1 to 2, it'll be fine. And then we've got 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I love vanilla extract, so sometimes I kind of let it spill over and I go up to a tablespoon. We've got Melanie from San Diego. Hi there. I think San Diego or South Dakota. SD. Could be South Dakota, huh? All right, we're going to do 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Again, I like pure vanilla extract, so not the imitation vanilla that you find at the grocery store if possible. All right, let's go. Just mix these ingredients. You could use the whisk, but then it kind of gets clumped up. And this is the whole batter. That's all there is to it. Susie said whiskey. Oh, South Dakota. Sorry about that, Melanie. I don't know why I thought San Diego right away. Of course it said South Dakota. Yeah. Whiskey. And if you like rum, I mean, this is the whole St. Patrick's theme, but if you, the rum and chocolate have great affinity too. So you can certainly put that in there. And you can see this is it's not like a cake batter. It's thick. So we just want to incorporate it so that you don't see any of the dry ingredients anymore. Flour goes in. Curious if anybody has plans for St. Patrick's Day. I know there's parades in most towns. Can you use vanilla paste instead? Absolutely, yes. Love vanilla paste. So yes, I always forget to mention that, and that's a good point. I love vanilla paste, so 100%. And there's the Madagascar, there's the vanilla extract with bourbon. That would work as well. Yeah, so use what you have. I buy this big bottle of vanilla because I think it's a good value, and I go through a lot of it. Again, I like to use a tablespoon when it says to use a teaspoon or 2. Okay, the flour is incorporated. Just wanted to make sure because I saw some dry spots. Make sure they're all in there. Okay, and the recipe tells you to shape the batter into little balls and put it in a baking sheet. But I found that for less mess, you can use a cookie scoop and make your life a lot easier. So this is a 1.5 tablespoon cookie scoop. You just put them right in. We'll get them all in. This makes about 18 to 20 So I'm using a 24 cup mini muffin pan, but if you want to double it, like I made 40 of these last week. So we would have lots of them on hand. Cassandra asks, any alternative to the whiskey for a non-alcoholic version? Yes, you can absolutely add, because it really just gives you that the whiskey flavor. So to make up for that amount of liquid, use 2 tablespoons of water. That's what I would do. You can also do any other liquid like milk would work, but really water, because if you think about it, you're doing the espresso powder anyway. So you need something for that espresso, and you would normally do it with water anyway. So the whiskey doesn't add much moisture, it just adds flavor, so just substitute water. And I have made these both ways. In fact, I brought a batch to my son's track meet this weekend, and all the kids dug into them on the bus ride home, and he texted, "Brownies delicious," and they did not have whiskey in them. They were just basically espresso brownies. We have no more questions? Nope. Keep those comments coming. Let me know if anybody's going to the St. Patrick's Day parade. I'm deciding. I think my little town has one. It is on a Monday this year. Okay. Just gonna scoop these in. Let's see. And if you notice, well, when these cook, they kind of bake up like little cups. They kind of puff up and over the pan, and they sink a little in the middle, and they make like the perfect cup. And so I've always encouraged people to add a little drop of whiskey on the little top. I'll show you what I mean. See how a cookie scoop just makes your life so much easier? And also, you could cook these in a brownie pan, obviously like an 8x8 square baking pan. That would absolutely be fine. I just love that there's no cutting required. These are all individual bites. And what I love about brownies is that kind of the exterior, that caramelized exterior and the caramelized top. And every single one of these has that. Let's see if we get one more out of here. Can we? Do we have enough? Probably not. We'll give it to those that look smaller. Okay. Then what you do is you just press them down gently so they fit into each little muffin cup. Did I grease the pan? Good question. Sorry about that. I meant to say yes, I did. I used a nonstick cooking spray. This is also a nonstick mini muffin pan, but I always like to do it anyway, just in case. But yes, coat it with a little nonstick cooking spray, your favorite. I'm not a big fan of the ones with the flour. I find that I prefer just the regular or butter flavored nonstick cooking spray. So that is 100% how you make these brownies. It's so easy. It's so silly. So I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and you put them in for 10 to 12 minutes. You'll notice they'll puff up, they'll spread out, and then they'll sink back down in the middle. So they make little cups, and I'll show you what they look like. How long do these typically take? I have another question up there. Susie said, hubby and I are going to a concert on St. Patrick's Day. Oh, cool. That's awesome. I love it. And yes, how long do these typically take? Well, I just made them in, what time is it? 10 minutes. And then they bake for 10 to 12. So within 30 minutes, you can be enjoying them. And here I have the finished batch, and I broke one of them open. So you can see how chewy and fudgy they are in the middle. You can look that way too. But yeah, so look at this. It's like chewy, fudgy, espresso in there, whiskey in there. And what you can do, since they form these little cups, let's move this other way. They form these little cups, so you don't have to do it, but if you wanted to top them off, you could put like a little drop of whiskey or even espresso right in the top. It's just so fun, and it's so different. And it screams St. Patrick's Day because of the the flavors of Irish coffee. Can I, and I have a question from Andrea. Can I grease the pan with just butter? Absolutely. Yes. If you want to do that, I'm a big fan of that too. However you like to grease the pan. You can also use little paper liners if you want to take them somewhere and have them easy for people to grab. I like those too. And again, you can cook these in a brownie pan, an 8 by 8 inch square baking pan, and then cut them into 16. Let's see. Let me see if we have any more questions. You guys, this is an easy one. I should have made 2 things for St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to put these in the oven. So give them 12 minutes. If we're still here, we'll pop them out. There, you can hear it chiming. So what else can I tell you about these brownies? They're so easy. If you want to do gluten-free, use your favorite gluten-free baking mix. Big fan of those. I think a lot of different companies are coming out with really great alternatives for people that want to go gluten-free. Is there a keto version? A keto version would be without the sugar, right? I mean, unless you can do, because I don't even think with keto you can do coconut sugar, if I'm right. Correct? I mean, tell me what would you do when you normally bake? What is your sugar substitute? Because I've been doing a lot of keto baking and I'm using a lot of coconut milk and coconut cream. So I think about that. I may have to respond to that. I may have to give it some thought and respond to you after I give it some thought and take substitutions, unless you want to tell me what you normally substitute. Susie said, looks so good. Thank you. Carol says, yum. Thank you. I know it's hard because you can't take a bite, but these are fabulous. And the best part is when when you can see, like you can hear the little crackle of the top and you can see how chewy and moist they are in the middle. And I can get the aroma of the espresso. So good. Can I prepare the mixture a day before? Good question. And you can, if you don't add the baking soda. So as soon as the baking soda meets the other ingredients, it wants to go in the oven so the brownies can rise. So what I've done in the past when I want to get everything prepped and bake right before is I'll have all the dry ingredients in a bowl and then just wait and do the butter, the egg, the vanilla, just like have all your flour, sugar, espresso, cocoa, and baking soda in your bowl. And then the next day, just add the wet ingredients. I've done that even on a road trip. I'll have the wet ingredients in one container and the dry ingredients in the other, and then I will combine them right before baking. So I hope that helps, because if you're looking to save time, I love that trick. You just can't add leavening agent and then store it, because it won't rise. It will have already reached its max. Referring to the question about a keto version, they use monk fruit as sweetener. Yes, I have. Yes. Yes, you can use an equal amount of, because I don't remember the ratio of monk sugar. I have done it. And the one thing I stopped using monk sugar because I thought it left an aftertaste. But in something like this, with the espresso, I think you would be fine with it and it wouldn't leave that aftertaste. So do the 1-to-1 ratio that you normally do with monk fruit for the granulated sugar. And in this case, I used organic, it was cane sugar, but it was not processed. It was almost like a brownish tint. I don't know if you saw it going in, but it was I'm definitely going more natural with the ingredients and baking because they're so easy to get now. They look lovely, and I'm sure my husband will enjoy them. Yay, I hope you make them. I really hope you make them, Melanie. I think, again, what I love about them is the mini muffin pan. And then when I went to pack them up, because they all had their edges, I mean, they packed in, you can stick them, they don't get stuck together. I put them in a plastic container and drove 4 hours to the meet, and they were all in perfect condition, but yet still, moist and chewy on the inside. So that's the other great reason for, reason to use the mini muffin pan, because they hold their shape so much better. If you cut brownies and you take them somewhere, they're all stuck together and they fall apart. So we can avoid that. Anybody have any other suggestions of ways that they can, like we have the keto version, we could do a gluten-free version. We can leave the booze out. We can leave the espresso out and just make brownies. They're still delicious. Put a little dollop of whipped cream, have like a brownie cup. Melanie has the same mini muffin pan. I love it. That's the 24. I used to have the 12s and I love the 24s. Everything goes in the oven at the same time. So, and they're super affordable. I think I probably bought them at the grocery store, to be honest. I go through a lot of them. Can you double the recipe? Susie asks. Absolutely. You can triple the recipe too. I doubled the recipe last week, so I had about 40 to 45 of these brownies. So yeah, and that's great because it's 2 cups of flour, then 2 cups of sugar, 2 eggs, and yeah, you don't have to change anything else. Just double everything. And if you're not using whiskey, use 4 tablespoons of water instead. And they keep well. So if you're going to have everything out, that's what I love to do. If I'm going to have the flour and the sugar and the vanilla and everything already out on the counter, I'm going to double the recipe and bake twice the amount and then keep some in the freezer for when company comes over or for the last minute treat I want to bring to a neighbor who shoveled my driveway, for example, or got my mail. So I like having sweet treats for thank yous that I leave at my neighbor's front door when they do nice things. I don't even have a shovel, and we got so much snow here. So I've been bringing lots of treats to my neighbor. Will you add toppings to them? You can add toppings. I was mentioning that because they're little cups, you can do all kinds of different things. You can put a little drop of the whiskey in there. You can put some espresso. You can do whipped cream, or I have chocolate ganache that I love. You don't even need to look it up on my website because it's equal parts heavy cream and semi-sweet chocolate chips. So let's say, for example, you have a half a cup of heavy cream. You get it scalded, so in a pan where you just get the bubbles around the edges. Take it off the heat, add chocolate chips, let it sit without stirring for 10 minutes, then stir it, and you have chocolate ganache, which is like chocolate sauce when you first have it because it's still warm, and then it hardens like fudge. Love chocolate ganache. I've iced cakes with it, and it would be fabulous. You could drizzle it in the center and then have it firm up as it cools, and it would be like a bite of fudge into a fudgy brownie. So yeah, that's a great idea to add toppings. Andrea said, what would you do for the espresso-free version? Oh, you just leave it out, and then you just have brownies. And if you could have whiskey brownies, or you could just have regular brownies. You don't need the espresso, or you can use a small amount just for a subtle mocha flavor. Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, so you could honestly just leave it out if you don't want to have it in. I've done them both ways. Without, it doesn't change the ratio of any of the liquids. Melanie says, can you freeze the balls and then unthaw them and cook them? I have not tried it. I've done it with cookie dough. Cookie dough works, and since we are using baking soda, it is more forgiving than baking powder. But if you're really looking to save time, I've done it with cookie dough. I haven't done it with these. I'm not sure it would work. I think you're better off baking them and freezing them already finished, and then just thaw. That would be my recommendation. And if you want to get them warm again, just pop them in a 300-degree oven for 5 minutes if you want to serve warm brownies. That would be my recommendation. I don't know if they would rise enough having been frozen. And cookies, you don't care if they, puff up. That's why, I have cookie dough in my freezer right now, and I will scoop it out and cook it from frozen. But they don't really need to puff up that much. And then Susie, do you let them defrost on the counter or microwave? If you've frozen them already baked, I just pull them from the fridge and let them defrost overnight on the counter. And my son always asks, every time I bring treats to them, they'll write refrigerator, and I'll always say, if you want it to last longer, but otherwise they can sit on the counter. But if you want them to last longer, then you pop it in the fridge. I made him a chocolate birthday loaf cake last week, and he wrote and he said refrigerator, and I went 3 days later and I saw it was in the fridge. So I know he wanted it to last longer. So everything will last better and stay more moist in the fridge. But if you're just going to pull them from the freezer and serve them that in a few hours, then you can leave them on the counter. I'm continuing with Susie's question about the microwave. I feel like baked goods in the microwaves get super dry around the edges before they get warm in the middle. I think it kind of ruins the texture. I don't know if you've ever microwaved a cookie or overdone it. And I just think it kind of compromises the quality of the baked good when you microwave it. Unless you do like a reheat mode or which is the one I used to melt the butter. I think it's like a 30 power, just for a short amount of time, just so you don't dry it out. Because, the microwave heats from the middle and somehow it just dries out all the edges. Same thing, with pizza and everything too. Any other questions? I'm going to check them. Oh, They puffed up. They're looking good. I'll give them 5 more minutes. Yeah. So what other things can we talk about for St. Patrick's Day? I know people like to do corned beef and cabbage. I used to do an Irish soda bread, I remember. Roasts are kind of a big thing. Sauerkraut, all those wonderful things. Marielle asks, how long do you bake them in a square brownie pan? I would check them at 14 minutes. They can go 14 to 18 minutes roughly. And what I like to do is with a wooden pick, insert it into the center if it comes out with little moist crumbs. So I feel like when they say to have the pick to come out clean, it's overcooked by then. So I like when there's a little bit of moist crumbs clinging to, no matter what it is, brownies, cakes, then you know it's still moist inside. So that's what I would do. I'd check it at 14 minutes. It could go up to about 18 minutes. And at 350, I would keep the oven temperature at 350. And if you double the recipe, you could do a 9 by 13 pan. And same thing, check it at 14, could go up to 18. And then you have double the recipe and you can cut them into squares and serve them with ice cream on top. Well, you could also serve these with ice cream. It's so good warm. And yeah. And I know the other tip that you just made me think about is there are glass baking pans and there are obviously metal and there are dark. So read the instructions for your pan, because oftentimes things bake more quickly in like the darker pans. And if you I don't know if you saw mine was light gray, but they have the dark grays. Things cook more quickly in those. And in glass, it can be variable. So I always check on the earlier side of baking. Never want to overdo it if you've gone to the trouble to put everything together. Yeah, so that's that too, the baking pans. What else did we talk about? We got the vanilla, we got the whiskey, we got the espresso, all the tips. We got the gluten-free, the keto. Cooking them in square or rectangular pans. What we can top them with. Even whipped cream would be fabulous. Can you turn this into a brookie recipe? I think you could absolutely, because yes, you could absolutely turn this into a brookie recipe, a brownie cookie, right? I would use a smaller cookie scoop. Let's see if I have one right here. So I used this cookie scoop. I would use the smaller cookie scoop and I would check them at about 8 minutes. Just put them right on, I would press them down a little bit with your fingers, just like I did in the pan, and then check them after 8 minutes. And I think that would make it great. And you can add chocolate chips and make them chocolate chip brookies or peanut butter chips. All kinds of different things. This is such a versatile recipe and it's foolproof. It really is. I mean, you don't need a mixer. You don't need to, whip the butter or make sure it's blended with the sugar. It's so easy. It comes together very quickly. So good idea, the brookie. What's your favorite brookie? You should tell me what your favorite brookie is. I haven't done one in ages, but this would be a really good recipe for that. It would totally work. Chocolate chip, yes. Even if you don't do brookies, you can add mini chocolate chips to these as well for double, triple the chocolate. Gonna check them. I'm gonna show you what I do. I think they need about 2 more minutes. And then I use a wooden pick. And I'll show you what they look like when they come out. But typically, you would go in the center and you test a center one. And I don't know if you can see there's a little crumb on there, and these are already cooled. So that's what I love. So you know that they're moist. You can see that here too. You see how moist that is? Nothing worse than a dry brownie. Of course, you could smother it in ice cream and salvage any overcooked brownie. And Chapman asks, can I get a shout out? Yeah, Chapman. Shout out. Hi. Is there a specific brand or type of whiskey that would work best for these brownies? No, there's not a specific brand. I only used a Maker's Mark because I had it for guests, and you only need a tablespoon or 2 because I know this can be pricey. But since we're baking it into a brownie, you don't have to spend a lot of money. I literally, I'm just going to put this right back, and the next time I have company, it'll come back out. So you can buy an affordable whiskey or one that you would drink even, and that will be fine. Just like they say, you want to cook with the wine you would drink. Same with this, but it doesn't have to be, an expensive one. Because again, we're baking it into a brownie and it's got espresso. So you don't want to waste it. I just didn't want to buy a whole bottle for 2 tablespoons. So should we serve them warm, or are they better once fully cooled? They are fabulous, however. I mean, warm brownies are just awesome, but these are fantastic at room temperature or even chilled, even frozen. They're delicious. But I think there's nothing better than a warm brownie. So you just give them 5 minutes after they come out of the oven, so you don't burn yourself, and then they're ready to go. Yeah. I'll check them. I'll check our batch. I think they're looking good. Another tip I like to do is I like to look for when they start to crack at the top. And that's when they start to crack and they sink a little, and that's when to take them out. If they're in an 8x8 or a rectangular pan, they won't. This is a different concept. They'll cook just like regular brownies, but when you cook them in a muffin pan, they make these little cups. And yep, I think I'm caught up on the questions. And there's also not a specific brand about the espresso powder either. So anything that you would, there's affordable brands out there, because if you're not going to be drinking espresso and you only want to have it on hand for dishes like this, then you can buy a small jar for under, I think this was probably $5. I think it was probably about $5. And I'm going to get the ready for you. Let's see. Let me see if there's, I do have a question. Would adding ingredients like walnuts, pecans, or chocolate chips change the cooking time or consistency? No, wouldn't change anything. I would just not add too many. So since we only have 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of sugar, I would add about a half a cup of mini chocolate chips or chopped pecans or walnuts. That way they won't fall apart. But yeah, absolutely won't change the consistency, and it doesn't change the cooking time. It just makes them more fabulous. So it's a great idea. Let's check those. I'll pull them out so you can look. They might need to go back in. Let's see. Move this bowl. Little moist crumbs. They are finito. See if I can if you can see, you probably can't see it. That how it's got crumbs on it, how it doesn't come out clean. That's the goal. So we're going to let these just sit for 5 minutes. They pop right out. And they're amazing, warm, room temperature, frozen. I don't know about you, but if I have something chocolate and frozen in the freezer, I will eat it frozen. I love it. I missed the temperature and the bake time. 350 degrees, check at 10 minutes. 10 to 12 minutes is about what they'll take. And all ovens are different too. So if you like to bake and you haven't checked your oven temperature with one of those affordable little things you can stick in your oven, do that periodically just to make sure your oven is actually 350 and not 375 or 325. But yeah, 10 to 12 minutes. Always check on the early side so you don't overdo it. Can you use Irish cream? Oh, that's a good idea. If you mean instead of the whiskey, absolutely. Any liquid that you want to substitute for the whiskey would be fine. Irish cream, or water, milk, heavy cream. Yes. Espresso, I mentioned. Yeah, so that's a really good idea. Any tips for easily getting them out of the pan without damaging the shape? Well, you'll see they come right out of the pan. I mean, these are still hot. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see how I'm using the toothpick because it's still hot? But see how it's holding its shape? It smells so good. You see how glossy it is? Yeah, they come right out, like easily. And I barely sprayed it because I know it's a non-stick pan. Ooh, this one's extra hot. Yeah, so they come right out. And I only waited, 2 minutes, and they were easily to come out. It was easy to come out. So yeah. How fast was that? I love how quick it was. I love that if you want to have a treat, you know that it's something that you can have in a short amount of time, last minute guests, or you've been invited to a party and you want to do something special. That's why I love recipes like this. Not a lot of work, especially. I know it sounds lazy, but if I don't have to pull the mixer out, I think that's a bonus. Definitely a bonus. Excellent. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Susie. And can you use this to make baked Alaska? Baked Alaska is a whole different animal. So I'm not sure if you mean you can use this as a base. I don't see why not. Interesting question. I've not done it. That's a unique one. Let me see if I can get one that's not going to burn me. So you can really see. Let's go right up in here. Steamy. You see how moist that is? That's unbelievable. 6 tablespoons of butter too. That's all it is. Clean, delicious. It's got that wonderful caramelized outside, that crackly top, the cherished crackly top that everybody wants from a brownie, and that moist, chewy, fudgy center. Yeah. Any other questions for me? Any comments? Any thoughts? Things that you would do differently? How you would serve them differently, or things that you can think about where you can bring them? I love them. I think they're super fun. And now I have this many more to give to my neighbors to thank them. Anybody else? Anybody still getting snow? Oh, deliciousness. Thank you, Susie. Because every time I think of having to give stuff to my neighbors, I think of all the things that they've had to help me for the weather this winter. So I don't know where you are in the country or the world, but I think we're all heading into some warm, sunny days. I think that is the plan for spring. Anything else? Any other questions? Or if you think of something after we close this out, I always check the comments, and then I always check, like this will end up on YouTube and there's comments there sometimes, and I can see those and I respond to those. If you want to reach out to me directly for this recipe or for another recipe or something you have coming up that you want an idea or an inspiration, my website is robinmillercooks.com, and then I have a contact page where you can reach out to me and I get that directly and I respond usually within the same day. So if you have a question or comment, or again, if you need inspiration for a party you're throwing and you want to know what to serve, I love stuff like that. That's why I love doing these lives and why I love my column, because people every week, once my column goes live, all kinds of questions come in about substitutions, or I made this and it's fabulous and my husband wants it on repeat. And so that's why I do it. I just love the back and forth. And Andrea asks, how do you think they would taste with fruit? I don't know if you mean fruit with them or in them. I think if you put them in them, they wouldn't hold their shape. But if you mean fruit on the side, I think that would be incredible. Imagine strawberries or strawberries and whipped cream. And again, these are little cups. So you can put a strawberry right on top, whipped cream. I think they would be great. Raspberries and chocolate have a natural affinity. So if you're thinking of serving them, and even with a macerated fruit, it's like say you have diced strawberries and you have them in a little simple syrup, drizzle that over the brownies. It turns it into a kind of a gourmet dessert, transforms brownies into something super special. So I think that's a great idea. Irish cream, whipped cream on top, excellent ideas. Irish cream, whipped cream on top to just like double send the Irish coffee message. I love it. That's a great idea. And Helen says, thank you for this versatile recipe and variations. Thank you. I love those too. Especially, if it is going to start to get nice and we're going to want to be running around and being outside and doing things, I think having recipes like this at your fingertips is so key, because parties are coming up, birthdays, outdoor picnics, and it's great to have something where you need one bowl, handful of ingredients, many variations, and they store well. So it's kind of hits all the buttons that we need when we're looking for something delicious and fun. And Susie, thanks for the tutorial. I love seeing things before I try. Yay. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think we've all become used to now kind of getting a tutorial really helpful, to see the process. Even though this was a super simple process, it's still nice to see how it comes together. And you say, well, oh, is my batter too thick or is it too thin? And then, you see it, so you know it's okay. But yeah, I hope you guys try them. I hope you tune in all week for Lucky Creations that Craftsy is doing. There's 5 different things. I'm number 1, and then there's 4 more crafts every day this week. So it's super fun, all St. Patrick's Day themed. So it's a great way to kind of get excited before the holiday comes and give you some inspiration for things to do in the spring. So if there's no more questions, again, you can find me at robinmillercooks.com and the contact form. You can reach out to me there, or you can leave comments once this is posted. If it on YouTube, I usually see those comments as well. Any feedback for future live classes, let me know. Somebody last time said they couldn't see in the pan, so now we have a good overhead set up. So I welcome all kinds of comments and things that you're looking for, things that you'd like me to do next time. Always willing to try. So thanks so much for your comments and for your thoughts on ways that we could switch these up. I hope you have a great kickoff to spring, a great St. Patrick's Day, and don't forget to watch Craftsy Live all week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much.